Thanks for. Sorry, guys. Oh, that's my boomer moment going on. All right, is this now working? Please tell me it's working now. I know the chat was a bit quiet, and I'm like, huh, what's going on? Okay, yes. All right, are we back? Are we so back? I hope so. Sorry, it's just because I've changed up my setup a little bit, and it's been like 6 months since I streamed last, and my Zoomer brain has started rotting, and I can't remember anything. Okay, so that I'm sorry. We're back now? We're so back? Awesome. Sorry about that, guys. Twitch streaming was working because I'm on Twitch as well. We're on Twitch and YouTube. We got to bring in all the revenue, guys. So the Twitch stream was working, but the YouTube stream, you got to click it manually. You can't just hit record and just do it. You have to go into the YouTube dashboard. Okay, well, thanks for joining me on this fine morning or evening or wherever you are. Oh, the Game Awards are in a couple hours? Cool. I completely forgot the Game Awards were a thing. I don't know, maybe one day if I work hard enough, maybe we'll see Feline at the Game Awards, but I won't give my hopes up. Hey, so hey YouTube guys. So did you miss did I like just talk for 20 minutes and that's all? Okay, well I'll start from the beginning. We'll start from the top. So some of you might have seen I put out a devlog recently. It was pretty brutal. It was a pretty rough time, but I ended up learning level design just on my own, and this is what I was able to do, and this is the new version of the lab. Now, I was gonna wait for a devlog to show this off, but I've got like 3 episodes I have to film that before this happens, because that's how much has gone on. You know, the manga is a bit ahead of the anime canon, if you catch my meaning. So we'll play through the stage again. I'll show you guys how it's looking. Oh yeah, and we've got the Gabi's models come a bit, you know, she's made some progress too. We've got all the animations in. The only thing that's missing is special effects, but I've been kind of inundated with other things lately. So that's something I'll probably get to in the coming weeks, just in my own time. But you see, we've got all the wall running, we've got the combat, we've got the ledge grabbing, we've got the sliding, we got the momentum, it's all here. And I think it looks pretty alright with all the flipping and the acrobatics. You know, this is sort of what I was wanting it to look like from the beginning, and that now it's sort of finally taken shape. So I've had a bit of practice on this level, because one of the reasons the devlog took so long is that I might have developed an addiction to playing playing the game, and you know, that's not so good. But maybe it is a good thing, you know. If it's that fun that if I can get addicted to my own game, then you know maybe I'm doing something right. But you know, I'm trying really hard to fight the urge, but I just can't help it. It's, you know, I'm having a fun time, but it's still not like publicly ready yet, if you know what I mean. There's still a bit of glitchiness to it. I just know how to get through the glitches, so it looks a bit better when I play it. But in due time though, in due time. So I'm trying to get past this section here. There we go. So this is sort of how the stage is shaping up. And I think it took me about a month to learn how to make, because there's specific tools I use to make it. So within a month, I was like learning how to use the tools and then making this. And that was kind of like my first real attempt at an actual level, doing it like in an actual considered method and not just randomly, you know, messing around in Unreal. So I reckon if it takes me only a month to do the very first one that I've ever done, with more practice I should speed up. And yeah, so that's the version of the stage so far. We got the level complete screen, we got the mission system implemented, and it's gonna rank me. So you see, I still haven't been able to get the S rank yet, because I'm a scrub, so I'm not that good yet. But I reckon this stuff is gonna make the game so replayable. Because one of the things I was always stressing over was, you know, there's that expectation with AAA games, at least, where it's like, oh, I gotta have 100 hours of content, oh. And then you end up just making all of this slop that, like, is kind of just busy work and chores. Like, go deliver lettuce to, what's her name? In all the, you know, Skyrim type stuff, right? And it's like, I don't want to do that. It's just boring. I don't just want to stuff it with, you know, it's like when they have the quarter pounders and they put like 2 more patties in it to try and like jack up the price. But really it only needs 1. You don't need 3 patties. That's sort of the attitude I'm taking. where it's like I'd rather have less quantity, but you replay it over and over because it's that fun. Because most of the games that I still play, I don't play a lot of new games. A lot of the games I play are like 20 years old, and I keep going back to them because they're so replayable. And I'm thinking, well, if it was good enough for those people back then in the golden era of gaming, then that should still work. You know, as long as I'm attracting the people that are going to appreciate that as well, and not people that are just going to want like low quality, high quantity stuff. So the idea is with a system like this, because I have different types of missions. I haven't implemented this into the stages yet, but I have like slightly, maybe I could try it. I don't know if I could quickly do it. But yeah, this stream again, I'm not going to be doing any live dev this time. I'm just sort of doing a showcase, kind of like a stand-up, I suppose. Just showing you guys stuff. But these are just placeholders at the moment of my mission objects. But I think if I wanted to, I think I might be able to get one of these other mission types working, but I haven't set it up right yet. And oh, by the way, sorry, I haven't been checking chat. I've been too enamored by showing you all this. But thanks so much, Scrappy, for the $5, man. I appreciate that so much. Says, I'll read out your message. He says, I'm new, so I apologize if this is redundant, but does the game have any Sonic inspiration? It does indeed, actually. I think I've shown, a lot of people seem to think I haven't heard of Sonic for some reason, which is kind of funny. But no, I grew up with like, okay, don't laugh, okay? I grew up with Sonic 06, all right? That was my favorite game growing up. And I know everyone hates it. I know it's like the laughing stock of the game industry, but I really love that game. And I was like super disappointed when they started deviating away from that. And, you know, when they got to the meta era or something, that's kind of when I stopped being a fan and lost interest. But the early sort of mid-2000s stuff I really like. That's kind of all I still play now. Just because, I don't know, because there's something about it that's cool. But I've always wanted to do my own spin on it. And have like my aesthetic with it. So like imagine like that game, but with an anime aesthetic, with characters that are a bit less mascot-y in terms of personality, that are a bit, you know, that's sort of what I wanted to do. And, you know, but when you're making a game, that you might have that idea going in, right? But then as you start building and you start getting exposed to more games, you think, oh, I could do all this stuff. I could do all this. And I remember when I started playing Mirror's Edge and stuff, I started trying to get a lot of inspiration from that. And now it's sort of come full circle where I've sort of narrowed my inspiration down a bit more, where I'm not... I remember I used to get recommended so many games when I started this, and I tried to do bits of everything. I tried to have shooting from like Titanfall, and I tried to have like the armor system from Crysis and all this stuff, but it was just a bit incoherent and it didn't work. And then I kind of narrowed it to like, well, what do I really, really, really love? And a lot of it was sort of in the vein of like 2000s platformers like Sonic or Ratchet and Clank or any of that stuff. So yeah, so that's sort of, yeah, to answer your question, yes. Got jump scared by a new Raymond stream? Oh, yeah, I got him. I got you. Did I see Project 06? I think I've heard of it. I don't think I've actually played it though. But it's supposed to be like some fan remake thing, isn't it? Because it's one guy, I think, which is pretty cool. So I'll have to check it out. And thanks so much, Mesramoth, for subscribing with Prime. I'm so sorry if I'm missing your donations and stuff, by the way. It's been so long since I've streamed, and it's meant to play a sound in my headphones, but I've gotten a new... I actually have an audio interface now instead of using my USB motherboard one, and I can't hear the stream audio. So you guys might be able to hear it, but I'm not getting any... So I'm sorry if I missed them. I'll try to pay closer attention, but I appreciate it so much. So thanks, Mesmeroth, for subscribing. I appreciate that. Pseudo Kid says, I didn't know you did streaming. Well, I did do it earlier in the year, but I just had to stop for a while, guys. Like, I was getting a little exhausted. I was getting a bit burnt out from it. And I just needed space, especially with the video I just put out, right? I don't know how many of you have watched it, but it was a rough time, okay? I just needed to be left alone for a while to process all of that. Which, by the way, it seems to be doing quite well. We're getting a lot of attention on that, so I just want to let you know that I appreciate that so much. It's I hope you guys came away with some interesting insight. It's trying to run a studio, which I didn't know that's not what I really wanted to do, but it turns out that doing that is kind of really complicated, as it would turn out. Thanks guys for the support. I appreciate that. Speaking of support, by the way, if you want to actually, instead of just donating to the Nebula stream, and I'm more of a physical guy. I don't really do digital transactions a lot. If you're the kind of guy that likes getting something in return for where your money goes, I launched a bunch of new merch lately. I'm wearing one of them right now, and this is like my favorite design of all time. This is actually made from Gabi's 3D model. This is not a drawing. I actually took a screenshot of her model. Well, I'll show you that in a bit, though. I want to show you the level stuff. But if we get time later, I'll show you the pose in Blender of how I did that. But if you want to support the game and the work I'm doing, that's the best way to do it. And you get, you get swag in return, which is like the coolest return on investment ever. So if you want to check that out, it's linked in the description. I don't know if it's linked on Twitch, though. I don't think I've updated my links. But it should just be like store raymondcripps.com or something. But yeah, so with the level stuff, I'll show you how this was. I was going to show Trench Broom right before I realized the YouTube stream wasn't working. So this is how it looks in Unreal, and this is what I was able to build within like a month of just learning stuff. But I built this. The reason I was able to build this so quick is by using better tools. So don't laugh, okay? The textures in this version are horrid. They don't quite match the style here, but this is how I ended up building it initially. And this is a community-made tool called Trench Broom. And this thing is so freaking cool, guys. Like, if I don't read chat for the next few minutes, I'm sorry, but I have to just tell you how freaking cool this tool is, okay? This is awesome. So, back in the old days, before I was born, okay, people used to make maps for this game called Quake and Unreal Tournament and all this stuff. There was this whole community of gaming, the boomer shooter era. Okay, now I wasn't around for this. I'm a bit too young. I have TikTok Zoomer brain, so I wasn't around then. But people made some pretty cool stuff in Quake. And I'll search some images. I don't know how many of you have seen Quake maps before, but some of this stuff is freaking awesome. Quake map. Let me just search Google. Let me show you this. So, back in the day, this is how people used to build maps. It was very... You'll probably notice that the vibe is very different from the games you see now. Nowadays, everything is realistic and RTX ray traced and all this stuff, and it runs like terribly. That's the status quo now, but 20 years ago, the standard was more like this, where you could run these games on like a potato, and they looked really abstract, and they had a lot of personality. So these sorts of environments, they have a vibe to them, right? That you can't quite put your finger on, but you see what I mean. Like there's an ethereal, otherworldly quality to it. And I think that's so freaking cool. So I don't remember how I stumbled on this. I think by complete accident, I stumbled across this stuff. But I tried to think like, well, how did these people, because these weren't big teams doing this stuff. Usually you'd have just one level designer doing these. And I was thinking, how on earth does one level designer do all that? Because from what I've seen, you have to have like a team of 50 artists to do anything. And I'm like, I don't have the money for that. I don't want to do that. I just want to go in and design stuff. And like these people. So it turns out they all have these really cool, unique mapping tools that don't really exist anymore in modern engines. So things like Trench Broom or Hammer, some of you guys might know Hammer, that's the Valve Half-Life Source Engine version. And that has a similar workflow to this. But I tried Hammer out, but I couldn't quite get used to it. Because Hammer is a bit old. Hammer is like, the last stable version of Hammer was from like 2004. And it kept crashing. So I gave Hammer a shot, but I didn't quite like it. But the reason I love this kind of level editing is that it's called, they call it a BSP workflow. And what that means is I can just draw geometry like this. I don't have to open Blender. I don't have to learn like topology or whatever. Like there's different rules that this has with topology, but it isn't as complex as Blender. And if I wanted to build like some pillars in this opening area, all I have to do is just click, and I can like increase my grid size if I want it to be a bit less precise. But it's all snapped, it's all grid based. And that's sort of a whole rabbit hole in itself, because it turns out grid design is how do I even explain it, man? It's really cool. Okay, let's just say using like a grid as a base instead of just placing stuff randomly is way more fun. It's more systematized. It's more timeless. And there's a few reasons for why that is, but I'll have to save that for the devlog. I have a whole bit I want to do on grid design. But anyway, so when you start building stuff like this, it's a bit like Minecraft, I guess. I haven't played Minecraft, so I don't know if it's exactly like it, but you know, Minecraft has blocks too, right? So it's a bit like that. And Minecraft is so simple that kids can use it, right? And it's like, that's kind of how you want it to be. You know, you want the tools to be so intuitive that an 8-year-old could do stuff with it. And that's why, to me, I think this stuff's so cool. Because I'm not a professional like level design major guy. I don't know any of this. I'm just playing around. But look, you know, we've got some pillars, and if I want to apply some materials to these, I can go to my texture browser. I've got some WODs loaded in. Now, these I can't use commercially, but I'm just using these as placeholders for the time being. I used textures from, I think there's the original Quake textures it comes with, and then there is this dude called Macon, who's apparently this very prolific texture artist in the Quake mapping community, and I've used some of his as just placeholders for this level, for the lab. So you can see here, I've just slapped on some of these textures on here, and already, you know, you don't have to open up a UV editor and align it and do all this stuff like you would in Blender. It's just intuitive. You just click and drag it, and it just works, you know? This is the Todd Howard quality right here, where it all just works, and I love it. Now, the interesting thing, it gets even more interesting, because you'll notice that not all textures work on everything. Some textures look a bit strange, some of them look like they work, and that's because some of these textures serve specific purposes. So some of these you're not meant to use on walls, you're meant to use on different things. So you'll see some of these, they're very detailed. And it's like, if you try to apply them to the whole wall, it looks kind of weird. And that's because these are meant to be used for details and trims. These are called trim sheets. And now, the dude I paid to do the original level design, because this is the stuff I'm expecting a professional to know. Because I'm not a professional. I literally learned this a month ago. I'm completely green when it comes to level design. I don't know what I'm doing. But I know that there is a principle and method to it where you can't just chuck in random stuff. You got to do it in a systematized way. You got to do it intentionally, the artist intent, right? And what I've noticed with a lot of Quake maps, and as you've seen I've done here, I haven't just chucked one texture everywhere. I've used trim sheets to kind of hide the video gaminess of the geometry. Because if you don't do that, it ends up looking like the library from Halo, if you know what I mean. I'll see if I can find an example. I actually don't know. I haven't looked at the library in a while. But in the original game, I'm not the remaster, but you see how it looks it looks like it's just one texture tiled everywhere type stuff? Not in the remaster. They've done a bit of a better job in the remaster, right? But some of you who've played Halo, you'll know what I'm talking about, right? It's this sort of like everything it's the Forerunner look, which is artistically it's a cool look, but you know that it's a video game when you're looking at it because no real life thing would look like this. But that's sort of what I mean. And when you just do the blocking, like it looks like a block out with lighting on it, right? That's sort of the vibe you get. And that's, you know, for them, it was intentional. They wanted it to look that way. But in my case, I don't want it to look like the library from Halo. I want it to look like a high-tech lab. So that's why you gotta like be a bit more thoughtful. So in this case, what I tried doing is, you know, I've got different layers of walls. So if I open up here, I've got this wall that has one texture on it, and then this one has a trim, and then this one has a different trim. And then the floor has little trims along the sides too. And when you start adding these trims, you kind of get the illusion that, oh, this was purpose built this way. This is meant to look this way. Now, I know that this these are all placeholder textures, so it looks very different from what you saw in the video. What I need to learn how to do is make my own WAD file so that I can import my own textures. I just need to learn how to do that. So I was going to do that a bit later today, so I wouldn't have to look at these. I just wanted to use these because this was my first time ever using these, so I'm like, I have no idea how to use trim sheets. So I'll use Macon's tech trim pack to figure out how they want me to use these textures. So then later I can put my own textures in and do my own thing with it. That's sort of the attitude I had. Now, the cool thing with a lot of this stuff is, actually, before I get into that, let me read chat, because I'm going to go for another 30 minutes about this. And let me just see if there's any questions and stuff. Where did Twitch chat go? Oh, where's all my windows? Sorry, I just had Chrome open trying to find reference. Reminds me of Abe's Odyssey. I'm not familiar with that. Abe's Odyssey. Oh, I've seen this before. Yeah, it's like, this is definitely from the PlayStation 1. Cool. Seam Skull says, I know Hammer, it's hard to learn. Yeah, man, it's look, there's people that love it, okay? There's people that grew up on it. That's not me. I don't know how to use it. I tried though, guys. I gave it a try, but the reason I didn't like Hammer was because it's a bit antiquated in terms of its user experience, like the way it wants you to use it. It wants you to do this thing where you have the 4 split viewport and you're doing everything in orthographic. That's the way it wants you to work, but that's not how I work. Because I grew up on Unity when that wasn't a thing, and Unreal and stuff. The way I like to work is having it all in the one viewport in 3D, and I don't like looking at orthographic views at all. I don't know, because it's just not part of my style. I just don't like it. So I like to do it all in the one viewport when I can. But Hammer doesn't let you, like, you physically can't move stuff in the 3D viewport. So and it kept crashing because it's old. Like, it wasn't designed for Windows 10, so it was very unstable. And I just couldn't get used to it. And I'm like, it is more powerful though in some ways, in the sense that you can do more complex geometry. And that's the kind of trick, isn't it? Is that it's like, oh, well, I could make more complex things in Hammer. But then the question is, should I make more complex things? Do I really need to do that? And I was like, if I can't make a good level out of primitives, then is it a good level? If I need to have all this extra stuff, is it actually going to be good? And this is the next bit I wanted to move to. Because you'll notice that with map editors like Quake and stuff, they're very blocky and angular, which is sort of what it gives them that different charm from the old stuff, right? And the reason for that is because it's all rigidly grid-based. Meaning that if you do anything, like if I even go to this, you see this round cylinder part? If we decrease the grid size, every single vertice is snapped to a grid because the software physically doesn't let you not do that. If you try to go and do floating point stuff, if you try to make something not aligned and untidy, it doesn't let you. It says no, it has to be on grid. Because back in the Quake, I don't know, there's a technical reason why. I think it has something to do with how older computers back then, they didn't really have they didn't have like the computing power to do as many floating point things. I don't know. I'm not a software engineer, so I don't know. But that's what I've heard. Because you have to render the enemies and everything else, and if you have these infinitely big levels that all have like a vertice that's 0.00 units, whatever. If you have all that going on, it's just not as clean as having everything snapped in integer values. I'd have to guess it has something to do with that, but I could be wrong. Someone can correct me in the chat if they want. But the point is, even performance, I don't even care that that's the reason. The thing that I like about it is that it forces you to be neat. It's like, you can't actually be messy. It doesn't let you. Everything you do, even these little trims where I've got the corner, all of this is on the grid. And the thing that's so freaking cool about that is that if I wanted to do like you see these corridors? If I wanted to do a thing with these corridors, because this was a bit tricky to get, these 45-degree slopes, because it doesn't like it when you do these things. But if you know what you're doing, it's really cool. Because like if I'm going to duplicate these out for a second. So this is actually made of only 2 pieces. It's only made of this piece and this piece. And I've got a corner piece that's modeled at a 45-degree angle. But even then, the actual part is on... You see the actual grid lines are still snapping. If I hide my textures, you can see that it is aligned perfectly. And when it's aligned like that, I can just snap it together like that, like a Lego piece. And if I want to make an extended part, I can literally just... Hold on, I gotta remember the controls. I can just like drag out another piece and just plonk it in there. And then if I want to end this little corridor, I can drag it. I can rotate this 90 degrees and snap it like that. And it just fits. I don't, because Unreal doesn't do it like this. And it annoys me so much. Like, I don't see modern game engines do this. In Unreal, we'll do a comparison. We'll try to do the same thing in Unreal. Unreal has a grid snapping, right? But it is nowhere near as good as that. It's very wishy-washy. It's like, oh, we have grid snapping, but you don't have to use it. Well, if you don't use it, there's no consequences, and we won't bother you. You can do whatever. And it's like, no, I don't want to be treated like I can just do whatever. Like, I want rigid, like, requirement. That's what I want. So if I take this, for instance, I have the freedom of moving this little platform anywhere I want, and now it's out of alignment. But if I turn on grid snapping, like this, it's still like, okay, now we've got grid snapping, but anyone that's actually tried doing this is going to know that you're going to be out building a geometry, and then before you know it, you're suddenly off grid. Because if you rotate something a certain way and then try and align it and move it, when you start rotating and moving stuff, that's when it breaks, right? And now you're off grid all of a sudden. And you don't even really notice when it happens. And it takes you by surprise. And this is when I was building the Skyport, I don't know if you guys remember that map. It was like the very first map I ever tried. That was like the one thing I was getting annoyed by constantly. So yeah, I've just tried to build out a little corridor here in Unreal, and you can see that it's like not aligning properly because the grid size doesn't correlate to the size of the walls, and it's just kind of like a bit of a mess, right? Unreal doesn't strictly enforce it. It gives you too much control and freedom. And sometimes having too much freedom is not good. Sometimes you need to have strict limits to be creative and do cool things. Now, you know, the modern advantage of this is that you can do anything. That's kind of the compromise. With a modern map builder like Unreal, you could do anything, but it's like, should you do anything? That's the question you got to ask. Because when you can do anything, this is the trap I fell into, is that when you can do anything, you can't really do anything because you have so many options and you're overwhelmed with decisions because anything is possible. So when you're using a more primitive tool like this, all the choices that would stress you out have been taken off the table and you don't have to worry about it. If I want to make this 50 degrees turn instead of 45 degrees, I physically can't do it because that would completely go off grid and ruin everything. So you have to only do it. Like, you have to have a really good reason to make this corridor curved at not 45, or to even make it curved at all. You could just make it straight. So you have to actually be very deliberate and careful with your decisions. You can't just randomly chuck stuff and go, oh, whatever. You have to be a designer, and you have to go, what's the purpose of this? Is this worth the effort and the pain to make this 45 degrees? So when you have that going on, it's like guardrails on the bowling lane. It keeps you focused on the actual job, and you're not being overwhelmed and inundated with unnecessary decision fatigue. So when I did this little corridor section, for instance, if I turn the textures on, when I was designing this, my thought was, I want to have Gabi slide onto this to teach player sliding, and then this wall, because when you physically see that wall, because the game, it has the wall run mechanic. So my trick is, I want the player to pay attention to the wall. How do I do that? Well, what if I made the wall more in their face and rotated it to be closer, so that the first thing you see isn't the end of the corridor, but it's the wall? That's sort of what I'm thinking there. And whenever I play it now, whether I'm right about this will depend on how people end up playing this once it's finished. But my thought is, if they see that wall ahead of them, and if they know that Gabi can wall run, it's like an invitation where it's like, when the wall goes like that, it's an invitation to say, hey, run on me. It might not be as obvious as I want, so I'll have to, if it's not obvious, I'll have to work on it a bit more. But that's sort of, but it isn't just a random decision. That's sort of what I'm trying to say. It isn't that I just made it curved for no reason. I did it because I wanted you to have this moment where you see the wall ahead of you, and if you keep going straight and not steer the character, you will run into the wall. And if you're smart, you'll jump on it. And it's like you can just do the wall run without even to have... Because I'm just pressing W. I don't even have to like turn the character. I'm just holding down W and pressing space again. And you get this moment and you see the character do the action with you doing minimal input. So that's kind of the... Anyway, yeah, that's sort of the thought process there. But that's really... When you have limits like that, where you can't just do anything you want, you have to be careful. When you have those limits, you can... It gives you all the room where you would be thinking about all the endless possibilities. You're instead thinking about, well, what's a smart way to use these limits? And that's the way I wanted, what I wanted this whole time. That's the way I wanted it. So after I made all this in Trench Broom, even though it's like more limited than Unreal, right? And you can only do stuff with squares, even though it's like more primitive, it's so much easier. Like it's just so nice. And this is what I was looking for like 3 or something years on like how to make levels. This is how I wanted it to be like, because I just knew that it's like, surely if people are doing level design as a hobby for like Quake, surely it can't be that hard. Like if it's such an art where people are doing it for fun, then why am I not having fun? It must mean I'm doing it wrong. And I was, and now I'm doing it the way I want. Where I'm actually learning that I didn't hate level design after all. I thought I hated level design, but it's actually, I hate doing it in Unreal, where it gives you way too much freedom. That's what I don't like. So it turns out I actually don't hate level design after all. I just needed to find the right approach to it. So obviously there is technical limitations to this, but that's fine. I don't care. I don't want to do an open world game anyway. So yeah, you wouldn't be able to do a AAA open world game with this. You wouldn't be able to do a lot. But you can still do quite a bit. You can still make linear stages like this out of it. And I thought, that's what I want. I want to do it like that. So that's what I did. So yeah. So even when you look at these little bits like the slopes and the corridor, because that's the cool thing as well, is that you don't have to just use cubes. You can modify a lot of this geometry as well, where if I wanted to have a slope, I can take this face and just drag it down, and it's like a hybrid modeling and level builder thing at the same time. And I can drag it like this, and you see every time I move something, you see these little red grid lines. It always is trying to keep me on grid and keep me on track, which is just so freaking nice, man. It's so great. Oh my goodness, I love it. So, oh man, it's just so cool. Like I wish that more people talked about this kind of stuff, because it took me years to find this, and these are all really old techniques. This is from like 20 years ago, this stuff, but I never see it talked about anymore. So I definitely at some point need to make a devlog about all this, because it's so freaking cool. Yeah, Trench Broom's really cool, isn't it? All right, I'll read chat now. I've finished geeking out. I'll have a read of what you guys are saying, because yeah, the only thing in my way now is just like practice with Trench Broom, because I've only been doing this a month with Trench Broom, so there's probably heaps of stuff I could learn. Even now, actually, I'm looking at my level design, and it is a bit rigid in terms of its layout, and there's probably even more creative ways to use a grid level designer and to make more interesting spaces. So I'll have to just play around with it and get more inspiration. But that's sort of the direction I'm heading in currently. Wow, I got a lot of messages here. Let me catch up. Frosty says, Quake used fixed point integers for game simulation and maps and floating point for graphics. Okay. So that's probably why it had all the vertices in the level had to be snapped. That makes sense. run at the same time. So it turned out to be faster doing both on a Pentium. Yeah, because that's the thing too, is that all these games were designed to be on like old computers, all that stuff. Hungry says, I love when tutorials aren't telling you what to do, but they teach you intuitively. Yeah, man, I love that as well. Mushroom says, Source 2 is actually kind of going back to this workflow. That's really cool. I did do a bit of research into Source 2, but it's not out yet, is it? I remember trying to like find a way to install it, but I just couldn't find anything on it, sadly. But the fact that Valve are still sticking to that makes me excited. And there's, I don't know, I feel like that approach, there was this video I was watching. I'll see if I can find it, if you guys want to give it a watch later. It's another Australian dev, actually, that made these videos. And it's about this exact problem with modern game engines. Now, this is going to sound like a boomer rant, but he's completely right about a lot of what he says. It's I'm trying to find his name. It was like Unreal needs to catch up to Quake mapping or something like that. Or no, yeah, here it is. So it's by this guy Joe Wintergreen. I'll paste this in chat if you guys want to check it out later. It's really cool. So it's this dude who, this was 10 years ago. This guy made this video. This is another indie dev from Australia. He had the same issue I had, where he's like noticing, because I think this guy grew up on Quake mapping, so he was actually there in the scene. I'm a bit younger than this guy, so I wasn't really into it, but he's sort of in this video talking about how the modular mesh level design that is like ubiquitous today, where you're expected to have pre-made kits. Oh, by the way, thanks so much, Timothy, for the 5 Canadian bucks. Sorry if I'm missing these. I'm not getting the notification sound, so I don't hear when you guys leave donations, but thanks so much, man. I appreciate that. You're a legend. Timothy, you're a real one. I've seen you in here before. Thanks so much. So with this guy's talking about, he's sort of saying how like today with game engines, well, I mean, this image here is kind of funny. He's sort of, yeah, it's a bit of an oversimplification, right? But he's sort of on point in the sense that back then you could have one level designer do everything, all in BSP. Whereas nowadays you need to have a team of 50 artists making you these prefabbed modular mesh kits. And you just need way more overhead to make cool levels. And there's something about that I just disagreed with. And I'm like, I don't want to do it that way. And it turns out, yeah, back in 1990, that's not how people did it. People used to do it like this, with Hammer and stuff. So the fact that Valve is still doing it like this is really cool. And the fact that, like, Mr. Wintergreen here noticed this. What's really funny is that this was, like, 9 years ago, and, like, nothing's changed. It's been the exact same, like, problem. Because this is the thing I've noticed with Unreal that I've been trying to work out. It's just kind of interesting, isn't it? Anyway, if you want to watch that in your own time, I've posted it in chat. But yeah. Natable hasn't heard of Quake mapping till today. Well, hey, man, get ready for a rabbit hole of fun and excitement, man. It's really freaking cool. I wish someone had told me about this years ago, but, you know, I don't have the biggest professional network of all time, so I kind of just have to, like, use what I know. But how did I find this? I actually can't remember how I even found this. It's probably really weird. It was really complicated. It started by reading this book, which had nothing to do with level design, and then I think I ended up connecting the dots and just stumbling into it. But what mapper am I using? Trench Broom, but I'm then porting it to Unreal. So this is there's a few different tools for it. There's Hammer, which is Valve's thing, but that's a bit antiquated. But a lot of people that grew up with Hammer will find it very familiar, but I did not grow up with it, so I'm a bit of a boomer when it comes to it. But Trench Broom, I find it's a bit more recent, and it's more what's the word? It's a bit more modern. The keybinds are a bit more intuitive, and it doesn't force you to use orthographic view. It kind of just lets you do whatever. So for that reason, I really like it. Let me just, sorry, I'm just trying to catch up on all the messages. BSP itself has gone away for good reasons. Well, that's true. Because the thing is, there's a reason why people don't use it, but also it kind of depends on like what your goals are. So the thing is that Unreal does have its own BSP tools, but they are terrible. Because I tried remaking, I remember when I first did this level, I'll see if I still have it. I tried remaking this in Unreal's BSP first, and it did not... Oh. Did this not save properly? All of my brushes are invisible. Uh-oh. Well, there you go. So that's Unreal's BSP tools. Okay, that was one of my early attempts at blocking. This was not with Unreal's ones. There was a version I made with Unreal's ones, but it's all empty for some reason. But if I try to open a new level and use Unreal's, you'll see what I mean. Because when it's just manipulating objects is too complicated. So if I go to geometry... Oh, that's not a box. Because with Unreal's one, you drag in the box, and then you have to like... if I wanted to get it to be a floor... See, even here I'm kind of struggling to just move the camera. But if I wanted to make that into a floor, you know, you could scale it like this, or you could go to brush editing mode and then drag it like this. This is what I tried doing it. Like I'm not a master ninja warrior or anything, but this is what I kind of... Because even when I'm trying to click on the handles, I keep misclicking and it drags the camera, which is... It's a little thing, but it's frustrating, right? It takes you out of the flow. And now we've got a floor, and if I want to get a wall, it's like, okay, now I have to drag in another one of these. And the problem is these transform widgets just are annoying, right? Like, it's so finicky, and it's so particular. You have to be so precise, and... It takes you out of the flow constantly. Like, look how long it's taking me to just get a wall in Unreal's BSP tools. Now, when I first tried doing this, I thought, oh, well, I just suck and I need to get good. Which, maybe. But then it occurred to me that, wait a minute, why should this be so painful in the first place? Like, why is this so unintuitive anyway? Like, this shouldn't be... It shouldn't take this much time to just build a square room like I'm trying to do. Because then when you start trying to do textures and everything, it gets a bit more complicated after that. So it's like, it has BSP tools, but they're not amazing BSP tools. Like, these are very average. And they're so bad that even Unreal tells you, don't use these. And that was the big conflict I had. Because the contractor I hired, I ran this by him, and I said... Why don't we do BSP? Because I want to have big geometry that I can modify quickly. That's what I want. And they went, no, you don't want that. Nobody uses that. You want to have all static meshes only. And I said, all right, you're the expert. We'll do it your way, because I don't know what I'm talking about. So we'll do it like that. But ultimately, we ended up having different problems as a result. And I couldn't have known. There was no way of me knowing that, because I'm not meant to know this stuff. I had no idea about this. But the issue, the thing is with BSP and Unreal, because there is a valid reason to not use them, and the reason is performance. Because a lot of people, I've heard people talk about this, where it's like, it's bad because when you try and bake the lights on these, it has issues, and because it's rendering the brushes constantly, it's not performant. However, because I ended up... There was someone I was talking to about this, and it might have been... I'm trying to remember who it was. But they had, like, used BSP on they tried using BSP Unreal on their own game, and it was super unperformant. But here's what they missed. Because I think what you're supposed to do... Because what you can do with these is you can convert these to static meshes, which is, I think, what you're supposed to do. You're not meant to leave them as BSPs. You're supposed to use them to block, do your material work, turn them into static meshes where the engine will handle them a lot better, because the engine is because the argument is that static meshes are more optimized, which they are. But if your goal is to build the foundation, using static meshes is kind of impossible because you have to rely on having an existing library of modular meshes, which not everyone has. And if you don't have it, you're just at the behest of whatever is on the Unreal Marketplace. And most of that stuff is junk anyway. And I'm not trying to be mean when I say that. I've tried using it and it's junk because it's not purpose built. It's just built for the mass consumption, and it's not. Because then the skill then becomes, how do I find the right asset kits that cohesively fit my art direction? And that becomes an entirely different quest. And it's difficult. Everywhere you go, it's going to be hard. So the trick is you got to use the BSP and convert them to static meshes. And that is kind of like, you know, there's probably issues there as well. Because I didn't make it that far with Unreal's BSP to know what the issues there are. But I imagine there's probably even more to that that's gonna go wrong. So instead, what I did, because I figured with a trench broom, because trench broom, like, look how, let's go to a little empty area here, and let's look at how quick it takes to make a room in trench broom by comparison to what I just showed you in Unreal. So with Unreal, you got to click and drag the little transform gizmos and move all the little faces. But in trench broom, check this out. Look how fast this is, dude. You just click and drag. It's like using MS Paint. It's like that simple. Check this out, man. And this is more fun. Like, this is like, I love this. I could do this all day. Look at this little room we got. And I didn't have to like click on the little transform gizmo and like rotate the face and all this stuff. Like, look at that. Look how quick that was. And it's the small things. It's the small things that matter, right? It's when it's so hard to even do the small things, the bigger things become even more of a pain. And that's why the simplicity of a tool like Trench Broom is so freaking awesome. Now, then the barrier is, how the hell do you like get this to work in Unreal, right? And the attitude I had was, well, if I have to convert the Unreal BSP to static meshes anyway, it means the end result is going to be a static mesh no matter what. So, because the advantage you might say with Unreal is that, oh, well, I'll keep them BSP so I can still modify them. But the trade-off is that it's not optimized. So if you have to solidify it anyway, I figured, well, I might as well just use the Trench Broom workflow. And then that way, when they get to Unreal, because when they get to Unreal, I'll open up the level again. Because when you get to this part, it's the end result is the same in terms of the actual, because these are all static meshes now. It's just they're cleaner and more purpose built. They all end up static meshes anyway. It's just these were built with love and care and built with enthusiasm, whereas the Unreal BSP, because it's so finicky, it was built with pain, and that makes a difference in the end product. Because if you have fun building it, you're gonna be more patient and resilient. But if you're in torture, if you're putting yourself through hell, you're not gonna want to put in your best effort because you want to as quick as possible put it down and go play like Overwatch or something. So so all of these are just static meshes anyway by the end, and it might look a little messy in terms of because I haven't done any cleanup to this at all. This is straight from Trench Broom importing it in. But it doesn't have to be readable in Unreal here, because all I have to then do in Unreal is add the collectibles and everything, all the entities, I think they call them. That's all I have to do here. If I do decide that, hey, I don't like this wall radius, I don't like the corridor, I wouldn't modify it in Unreal, because Unreal's tool, they're not meant, like, what I would do instead is like go back to Trench Broom and change it there and then re-import it, because it's easier to make those changes in Trench Broom. So that's kind of the attitude I took with it. And I had to re-import it a few times and change things around. So the only disadvantage is that iterating is a little slower, just a little bit, in terms of if you wanted to like hop in and play it straight away. But I think for me, at least, the advantages make up for it bigly, because as long as I memorize the size of the character and am familiar with the character's moveset, I don't need to constantly play and check it. Like, I can pretty confidently spend like 30 minutes building out a segment and then test it. Like, I think if it's at the point where I'm testing it every 2 minutes, then that's kind of a waste of time as well, I think. You don't want to be like overdoing it there. So it kind of it kind of encourages you, by making it a bit less harder to test it immediately, it encourages you to be a bit more thoughtful with what you're blocking in Trench Broom, because you have to like import it. The importing process as well, once you understand it, is like not that hard either. It's like a click of a button and you just import the map, and the only thing that takes a while is just waiting for it. But once you've got all the materials, it should be fine. So even now, if I wanted to go to like, oh, I won't do it, because if I do it, it's going to re-import the materials, and I don't want to mess it up. But it's the click of a button. There's this plugin I got called Hammer that's supposed to do it, and you set it up. You link the map directory here, you choose the destination folder you want to import it to, you configure the materials, you click it, and then it works. And I love being able to say that, man. I love being able to say it just works, because it actually does. It's freaking awesome. So that's sort of, I don't know, man. It's so fun. I love it. It's really cool. But anyway, so that's sort of what I was cooking there with the levels. What does re-importing mana look like? Easy? Yeah, it's pretty easy. I would do it, but I'm in the middle of doing a bit of cleanup right now, and I don't want to like interrupt what I was doing. Because I still have a few bowls to wash. Okay, so with the materials, because I hurried this a little bit for the video, and I wasn't as organized as I should have been with my materials, so I wanted to clean all those up, and I'm gonna do a commit like later this afternoon with all that, and then I can then start re-importing stuff and it'll work. Because I just had to get used to how to use it. So my first attempt wasn't, I did it a little messy, but it's my first go. I'm just learning it. But I reckon the more I do it and the more I get familiar, I'm going to learn, and it's going to be the greatest, okay? It's going to be awesome. We're going to make level design great again. It's going to be sick. Hammer is what Sprawl used? I haven't heard of them. Sprawl. I'll have to look that up. Sprawl, is the game Sprawl, or is it Sprawl Team? I have not heard of them. You'll have to tell me about what the games they did. But yeah, dude, man, this is like, this is what I wanted level design to be like. Okay, this is kind of where I had this eureka moment. And it just goes to show, like, because I've noticed a lot of people have been coming away with lots of different conclusions from my video. But the thing I took away is that if you're like me and you have a very individual mindset about things, you can find ways to do things without needing to like over delegate everything. And this I can tolerate. I can put up with this. It might sound like hell having to do everything, where I have to do the levels and the programming or whatever. But this I can handle. Like, I'm looking at this and it's like, this is going to be a lot of work to make more levels, but I can actually imagine doing it. And it doesn't seem like torture. But trying to, as you've seen, I don't know how many of you have seen the video, but yeah, I don't know how to tell other people how to do this. I have no clue how to communicate that, obviously. So it's like, all right, well, I'm going to do the thing I'm good at, or I'm here building, because I can figure this out, but I don't know how to direct other people to do this. So I'm not going to do that, and I'm just going to do it my way. And I'm having too much fun almost. It's really fun. So I don't know. So for anyone that is a bit like me, in the sense that you want to take like full ownership of your work, this is the kind of stuff I wish someone had told me about, and this sort of way of working. So if any of you in chat are like solo devs, I'm going to guess some of you might be if you're watching my channel. This is the kind of stuff you got to be looking out for. It's like, is there a systematized way to build stuff? Is there older ways or less complicated ways? Because I find that looking backwards in the past, when games weren't as big, that's kind of where I found the answers to a lot of my problems. Where it's like, back in Doom 1, they had like one level designer doing everything. And it's like, how is that possible? How did they do it? And the cool thing is that once you start noticing the patterns, like you see here with all the trims, because it's got a certain system or a method to it where you've got visual cohesion. Because if you look around at the level, to bring attention to this again, you see how I've got the trims on the ceilings, I've got the tiled textures on the wall, I've got the trims on the floor, and I'm not using the same texture on the floor and on the wall, which you think you wouldn't have to tell people to do, but if we looked at the contractor's version, I think I might still have it here. Because here's one thing you might, just to go into what happens when you don't know this stuff. I'll open up a comparison. Because here's where it, oh, hold on, that's my version, my bad. Because when you don't know the rules, because there's a certain way to build, there's a certain, I guess it's like architecture, right? There's a certain artistry and craft to it. And when you don't know that stuff, which I didn't know this at the time, so I didn't know how to point it out. But if we look at the older version, firstly, it's taking forever to load, which is kind of already a bit of a thing. But this was the version I paid someone to do. And when you know what trim sheets are and how they're meant to be used, and when you know how to build, when you've seen it done well, you then start noticing. Now, I didn't notice this the first time, but you notice how the walls here are all stretched? You notice how, like, the walls are a little over-detailed? You notice this stuff? That's because these textures are not wall textures. And if we go here, these are not wall textures. These are trim sheets. Now, I didn't know this at the time, so I didn't notice it. But when you know, you can't unsee it. And there's just trim sheets being used for the floor, for the wall, which they're not meant to be used for. You're not meant to use these here. And when you don't do it, I know that initially, when people look at this, it's going to look more impressive because of all the shiny lighting and the bright colors, but that's superficial. It isn't well crafted. It's just dazzling. That's all it is. But this stuff in 10 years from now is going to age, and it's going to look like, you know what I mean? Where you look at games that come out today and the graphics age so quickly. The reason that happens it's because of a lack of, like, solid art direction or intention with what you're building. And when you look at this, I didn't know how to point this out at the time, but I see it now where it's like there is no real intention here. It's kind of just haphazardly, we just got to chuck in detail for the sake of it and just chuck it in. And that is going to trick people at first. When you have a gamer or something, they're not going to know straight away. They're going to look at this and think, oh, well, it's so detailed, that's incredible. But that's not really the point. You don't really want them looking and being dazzled by the detail, because that isn't quality. It's just fidelity, which is not the same thing. And for anyone out there I don't know if you've noticed this as well, but when I look at modern games now, they all have this problem. I don't know if I hope I'm not the only one that notices it, but you guys might see it, right? Where it's like everything is like 4K and whatever, but there's something that's, like, not as cool about the older games. Like when you look at something like Quake compared to Stalker 2 or something, you know that Quake is, like, more legendary. But you can't quite, but you think, well, why? Because it's lower fidelity and it's 480p. How does that make sense? And it's because it's not about the fidelity, it's about the quality. And that's kind of a lesson I learned watching this version be built. Afterwards, I started to see it, where it's like there is too much fidelity and not enough quality. And a lot of people think they confuse the two and they don't know the difference. Now, if you look at my one, we'll go back for a second, because I know that people at first think that, like, they look at it and go, oh, well, it looks more PS2, which is what I want. But you might think, oh, well, it looks lower quality, and it's just lower fidelity, but it's going to age much better because everything has been put there on purpose. It isn't just randomly kit bashed. That's the word I'm looking for. That's it. It's kit bashing. I freaking hate kit bashing because it's just random. It's just like a kid with the Kid Pix 3 just spraying stuff everywhere. It isn't intentional. It isn't designed. It isn't considered. Now this, obviously I'm not the best designer. I'm still working it out. But I at least tried to think about, where do I put the trims? Where do I put the wall textures? Where do I put the floor? Like, what color do I make everything? That when you start thinking about it like that, this might not look as dazzling immediately, but in 5 years from now, hopefully by then the game will be out, right? But by then, people are still going to think it looks good because it was built on purpose. It wasn't just randomly. I don't know if what I'm saying, like, I don't know if people get it. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just realism and fidelity isn't good enough. Like, that doesn't, A lot of people I know will think that it is, and marketing departments try to keep telling you that it is, but I don't think it's true at all. I think it only works if you actually commit fully to realism and do like Crisis type stuff, which if you go and play Crisis now, it still looks good, right? But that's because they had the art direction and they had the quality and the fidelity, but that's rare. You don't see that all the time. But in my case, I don't have the budget to do both. I can't do quality and fidelity. So I just want to do quality, even if it means the textures are like lower quality, or actually these are actually 4K textures, I think. I don't think these are actually that bad, but they're stylized. And that's probably why it looks blurrier, because these are hand painted. But that's kind of what you want for my kind of game, right? You don't want it to look like because the other textures were just photographs. And that doesn't cohese well with Gabi's, because I think some people did say that she didn't match the environment. So I'm hoping with this version, it matches better, because it's supposed to look like a 2005 JetX anime. That's the vision of that this is meant to look like. So hopefully this kind of matches a bit better. Obviously, there's probably some stuff with the lighting I could do a bit better, but my first attempt, this is what I was able to do. I'll try and work out some better things with lighting, I reckon, because I think it's in the lighting probably. If I wanted to make this better, it would be in how it's lit. Because all of this is just using rectangular lights and these fake god rays. That's all this is. And I did it in like a few hours. But if I spend a bit more time on it, I could probably make it look even cooler. But if you go and look at Quake maps, you'll notice that it's all in the lighting too, right? So I'll find an example of what I mean. So you see here in the Quake stuff, because this is actually really old tech where they don't even have rasterized lighting. It's all vertex lighting. And I want to try that out next, but I don't know enough about it to know how hard it is. But this is all done with vertex colors, that's what gives it that timeless look. Where, people might say it's aged, but games that actually age look worse than this. This kind of stuff, like this is timeless stuff in terms of its craftsmanship, right? And that's because like with the lighting, it's all done deliberately, and there isn't anything left to the computer to guess for them. That's kind of why I'm not really into the Unreal 5 or, whatever they're doing. I don't really care. Like, I'm not into that because it's all give the computer the control and take it away from the artist, which I don't like. But this kind of stuff, it's got a charm, and an unmistakable charm. Like, you look at one of these and you instantly know it's Quake, unmistakably. And that is rare. That's kind of what you want. At least that's what I want. I want people to look at it and go, oh, that's a Project Feline level. I don't want them looking at it and going, oh, that's Unreal 4. Because that's like you don't want that, okay? That's like the biggest failure ever, where it's like, oh, this looks like a student game in Unreal, which is, oh man, you don't want to go there. But this kind of stuff, like they're doing a lot of tricks with their lighting that I want to learn more about, where they have vertex lighting and vertex colors, and there's these things called full bright textures, which I think are responsible for these glowing pieces. But I don't know enough about that yet. I've only just been kind of getting into the modeling side and the texturing. I don't know enough about the lighting yet. But I think with more practice, I'll work it out. And maybe I can try doing vertex lighting in this map, which would be cool. Because I'm just using Unreal's lighting for the moment. So it isn't as controlled. It's a bit, that's probably what gives it. If it does look any degree Unreal, that's probably why. It's because I'm just using point lights and not something more magical. But anyway, so that's sort of what's been cooking, guys. Sorry, I've missed a lot of your messages again, but I needed to show you. This was like, I couldn't wait for a devlog to show you. I just had to. But a devlog event about this eventually will come. Because there's so much about it to show. But I hope you found that cool. I'll read some of your messages now. Sorry. Unfortunately, many modern engines don't support shading. Well, yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I have been researching, though. There is a guy that's made a vertex vertex lighting plugin for Unreal, and I'm curious to give that a spin just to sort of see how it is. If it ends up being more trouble than it's worth, I probably won't bother. But if it within a few hours I get something cool, then I know that it's like, okay, I'll lock into that and do it and try it. But yeah, it doesn't have it by default though, so it does take a bit of work. Have I run it on a lower performance machine? I have a few times. It has been a while though, admittedly. I don't have a lot of... I only have my computer, but when I had the prototype... Because the thing is about the... Here's the cool thing as well, just real quick. This entire level is the most optimized level in the whole game because it uses really, really, really primitive techniques. Like, there isn't anything that fancy going on. All of it, all the lighting is baked. The visibility is all... Like, there isn't superfluous polygons everywhere. You can see that the walls are all one-sided. And I've got all the occlusion and everything baked in. It's all baked. And because it's all corridors... I won't do this for every level, but because this level is mostly corridors, it culls most of the visibility, which means there's less on screen at any one time being rendered. And I've also taken a lot of stuff off the post-processing. Now, in the last build I put out, which was a while ago, nobody complained about the performance on it, but it runs worse than the game does currently. So my logic is, while I don't have a lot of equipment to test this with, if people that were playing the itch build, if not a single person complained about the performance then, and the maps were built way worse and way less optimized, I reasonably assume that this should be fine, because this is built way more thoughtfully than the other maps. So that whole the one with the buildings and Calder's mission stuff, I don't know if anyone remembers that map. That was like probably the least optimized map, but I have not seen a single person complain about it. So that tells me that I probably accidentally did something to make it optimized and I lucked out. But this time I've tried to be a bit more thoughtful. So it's at least so far, I haven't noticed any issues, but you never know. So eventually, I'll probably have to do some more rigorous experimenting and try to get my hands on more hardware, but hardware is a bit costly, so I'll have to... That's why you got to buy the merch, guys. You got to check out store.raymondcripps.com, and then I could buy a potato computer where I can then put this to the test. But yeah. I think there's this reputation with Unreal that it's really unoptimized, and I think it's only unoptimized if you fall for all of the stuff it wants you to use, like real-time global illumination and ray tracing and all that. Like, if you fall for that and think that you need to use all that, then yes, it'll be unoptimized. But I have very, very deliberately gone against that. This is not UE5, this is UE4, and I'm never upgrading because... someone showed me this video the other day of like Unreal 5's default scene, and it runs like 800% slower than the Unreal 4 default scene, and the performance is just the skybox or something. It was something like that, and that was just ridiculous. So I reckon as long as I stay with the boomer shooter map design and I don't deviate from that, and I just do the primitive basic lighting and try to just do it very stylistic and artistic. As long as I do that, I think we'll be okay performance-wise. As long as I don't do any fancy screen space, whatever. Because the thing is, as I was saying, I've taken off like almost all the post-processing. Because the old build, it had all of these paint post effects on it, which was taking up performance. And that's all gone. So the only effect on here now is a bit of radial blur when you're moving. So when Gabi starts running, you see a bit of radial blur in the corners, and a custom bloom that I've done to give it that 2005 PS3 bloom look. That's literally it. I have no chromatic aberration. I don't have, screen space. I don't have any screen space reflections or anything. I don't have ambient. It's all gone. I took it all off so that it runs even better. So I think, because I totally forgot I did that, because that was a while ago I did all that. That was before the model. I took all that stuff off. So all of the color correct, because that's the thing, is that the old build had color correction and tone mapping and all this crap. It's all gone now. I don't have it. I don't need it. It's gone. So the camera is not going to try to wash the colors out anymore. It's not going to try and auto exposure things all the time. Because who needs that for this kind of... It's an anime game. You don't need these photorealistic effects. So I took it all off. It's all gone. So even with the level art workflow aside, I've done a lot of stuff to the rendering to make it more optimized that I've just been so busy that I forgot to tell people I did it. But yeah, so the actual renderer is different. That's the thing I forgot as well. Sorry, it's just because so much has happened. There's so much I got to catch you guys up on, man. It's crazy. But this used to use the default deferred rendering, which is more advanced, but it does two passes where it does like the graphics and then the post stuff. I've now switched it to forward rendering, which is older, it's less advanced, but it's what I want because I don't need deferred rendering. I just don't need it. It's just unnecessary performance. Like when I switched it from to the forward renderer, the frame rate went up like 20%. It was amazing. It was so good because all this effects I wasn't using anyway. So it runs better. It only has one pass, and it's older tech, and I can't use like all these new effects anymore. But I don't care. Like I don't want that anyway. So it's more old school, and I'm reasonably confident that it should perform pretty well. If you have a lot of lights, you might get benefit from the deferred renderer. Yes, I understand. However, this is all done baked. I'm not planning on having any real-time lighting at all. And I know that some people aren't okay with that. You know, some people want to have their real-time lighting. Me, personally, I don't care. Like, whenever I'm playing a game, like, the games that I still play, personally, as a gamer, don't have advanced lighting. Like, a lot of my favorite games, like Ratchet and Clank on the PS2 or Sonic 06, those were all done with, like, vertex lighting. And I still think they look fine. So it's like, I don't really see it as a huge problem, because I'm not trying to do Crysis 3 here. I'm just trying to do something that artistically looks cool. So if it means that I have to compromise on how many dynamic lights there are, that's fine. I'm okay doing that, because the players shouldn't even really be paying attention to the lights anyway, if you know what I mean. Like, for my game, if they're focused on the deferred rendering, then I've failed. Like, if they're focused on that, it's game over, man. Like, they shouldn't even be paying attention to that stuff. They should be paying attention to the gameplay. That's kind of what I reckon. So if they're looking at the game and they're thinking, "Oh my goodness, it doesn't RTX all this stuff. It doesn't have the 10 bounce lights." If they're thinking about that, I feel like I have failed to draw their attention to the right thing. And I feel like in 10 years' time, when I hope people are still playing the game, like I'm aiming for the long haul. I want to make something that people love so much that they would still want to play it in 10 years. And I don't think those people are going to care if it's like using deferred rendering or not. I just don't think so. I could be wrong, but as a gamer myself, I personally don't get bothered by that. And I'm just assuming, for the people I want to please, I think they might have similar preference. I mean, hell, if they like this kind of game, and if I like this kind of game, they're probably going to have some of the same preferences as I do, right? You know? So instead of relying on a focus group, I'm thinking, well, what do I like? Well, I like forward rendering, so I'm going to do that. But Gabi needs a shadow. Yes, she does. That's the only thing I still got to do. Because it's all baked lighting, that's another disadvantage where I can't have real time. I mean, I could, if I wanted to change these to... these are, I think they're set to static. If I set them to stationary, it'll render real-time shadows. But I want to try something a bit cooler, where she has the old school, like, blob shadow underneath. I think that might be a bit cooler, because I have seen some games do that. And it's also a handy trick where they have their shadow directly below the player so that they can see where they're landing. And I think, that actually might be a better idea than having realistic shadows, because that way it actually serves a gameplay purpose and you can see where you're landing. So I have an idea on how to do that. I just haven't done it yet, but I'll probably get around to that soon with as I keep working on this little area. A drop shadow would be useful. Yeah, precisely, right? So I wanna try and work out a system for that. I don't think it should be too hard though, but yeah. Some people have really bad takes graphically, and they aren't usually the ones that you want to appeal to. Well, yes, that's the thing. For me, I've noticed that whenever I do a thing with my game and it's something I like, it usually ends up working. Whenever I try to kind of bend the knee and do what I think the market wants, it always backfires. And maybe that isn't everyone's experience, but in my case, it's been so. Whenever I try to people please too much, and it's like, oh, everyone wants the 4K RTX. Like, whenever I try to appeal to that, I don't know, like, it feels like it feels like a compromise. And it's like, I know that there's people that like that stuff, but I have confidence there are people that also like this stuff. And that's like, you can't please everybody with this. You got to pick who you want to appeal to. And for me, it's like, I want to appeal to people like me that think this is cool. Because that's kind of the most authentic option. You know, I think if I tried to make it appealing to the RTX people, it's going to be inauthentic because I personally don't even like it. And the players would be able to tell. They'll be able to go like, oh yeah, this guy doesn't care about like it'll be obvious. The players can tell that stuff, right? So yeah. Blob shadows are tradition in platformers. Go for it. Well, that's good to know then. Because yeah, I haven't played a lot of stuff. Maybe I should play more platformers. But I've seen it in a few, and I've noticed, that might be a good idea. Yeah. Well, as Archie be saying, I don't. It does depend on the game. It's not that the graphics are not important. I think it's that in my head the graphics are important, but it isn't graphical fidelity or graphical realism. It's graphical style. That's what I think is important. So that's why I think the ultimate. I get what you're saying though, but just so that people don't get the wrong idea, I think graphic when something isn't graphically important, that's when you get programmer art where it's all just cubes, which you don't want to go that far, you know, because there's that whole. I've seen people on Reddit argue about this like nonstop, where they argue that graphics aren't important. If the game's good, it'll sell. And then people try that and they fail because there's no appeal. And then they say, oh, well, the gamers are just bad. And it's like, no, that's not it's that graphics do matter, but it's not graphical fidelity or graphical realism, unless that's what you want. I think it's more, it has to look appealing, but it doesn't necessarily mean it has to look realistic. It just has to have an appeal of some kind. It could be style. It could be... Even you can even make programmer art look appealing. I've seen people do that where it deliberate like those sort of meme games that you see YouTubers do where the art is like bad on purpose. Those you can absolutely do it like that, right? And yeah, people are still gonna play it. And for me, you know, my taste is like this kind of anime look. That's kind of what I like. So when people tell me that there's a more advanced RTX way to do something, I just kind of tune it out and go, well, I want to know the anime way of doing it. But anyway, sorry if I'm not, because I'm just got to check that. I just got to keep an eye on the time because I don't have a lot of time to show off stuff. But I'm going to try and get through as many questions as possible and just sort of get you guys up to speed. And then I got to probably get back to work later. Thanks so much, Foxtail, for the 20. I don't know what. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I don't know what currency that is. It says SCK. I'm not going to read it out as a plural because that'll sound like a different word. But thanks for the 20 currency. I appreciate that, man. Do you want to keep the NPC or track? Oh, man, they're gone. Those are long gone already. They are in the bin. Out of here. Goodbye. Now, with that NPC stuff, I don't want to give away too much of my plans, but I kind of decided that that wasn't really necessary in the first place. So I didn't feel too bad in throwing them out because, yeah, I could try to do it my own way and figure out a more optimal way to do NPCs. Or I could design the game in such a way where I don't need them. That's kind of what I'm thinking now. And it might sound like a downgrade, because that's the tricky thing about my devlogs, is that I will try things, and not everything will always make it in. So I'm trying to be very careful not to set false expectations of of what's going to be there. That's why I'm not making promises of what is going to be there, because I'm just doing what I can, man. I'm doing it by the seat of my pants. I haven't worked at a studio, okay, so I don't know how it's supposed to happen. But we tried it, okay, and we saw that it was actually really complicated. So my current attitude about it, which might change, my current attitude is, right now, it's more trouble than it's worth. Let's just double down on the linear levels, because I'm pretty comfortable with making these now, and it's really fun. So my attitude is, I want to see how much I can push and focus on the linear levels and make them really cool. And then maybe we'll then reassess if we do need the hub worlds. Because it might be the case that these are so fun that we don't even need filler. Maybe. But it's hard. You can't really tell yet, right? It's one of those things that you kind of have to get a feel for it, where later you then decide, all right, well, now that we have more information, what do we want to do? And that's kind of my attitude to it at the moment. Because on the one hand, it would be cool. And the reason I even tried is because a lot of you suggested it. And a lot of you said it'd be really cool. And I wanted to give it a try and give it the benefit of the doubt. But it's actually kind of complicated, as we've seen. It's not as simple as just dropping in characters. And it's going to take a bit of work. So I reckon what I'll have to do is just wait and see if the actual levels, if it still feels empty and that it needs more, then I might consider it. But it's going to be costly as well, right? So it's going to depend on a lot of factors. So my goal at the moment is just to try and, because I took a massive financial hit from that video, right? So if I can save up enough, if I can, if I can be financially disciplined and just save up a budget enough for me to bother with that, then maybe. But I'm also prepared to just not do it either. I'm like, okay if it doesn't happen. But I think whatever I end up picking, whatever the choice is, it's not that I'm gonna I think the end product is still gonna work in the end. That's what I have confidence in, because ultimately it might not need it in the first place, you know? So if it ends up being fun without it, then the players aren't really missing out on much anyway. But yeah. No Man's Sky is a warning and setting yeah, man. I've done a lot of studying on other indie devs like that, and man, it's like a whole different meta game. It's quite interesting, and it's very brutal. I don't think a lot of indie devs quite get. I didn't get this either when I started, because no one was you guys weren't meant to find this project. Like, that wasn't part of the plan. I was just uploading stuff. I didn't think people would care about it, because it's like, who am I? Like, I'm just some guy, right? So I was a huge surprise. And I think most indie devs that get big, that blow up like that, they kind of get in the same thing. And there's a long process that you kind of get familiar with, where you have to learn how to basically be a PR manager, which is not the same skill as someone with a computer science degree. It's a different skill set. So I definitely can relate to Sean Murray a little bit, but ultimately Sean came in clutch. He ended up saving it, and that doesn't happen all the time. But that's why I have a lot of respect for Sean Murray, because he wasn't doing it in bad faith. Clearly, you know, he actually just made the mistake of over-promising, and he didn't realize. I don't even know if that was even his choice. It was probably his publisher that was making him do that anyway. So it's, you know, those stories are so interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. But yeah, can you not add a hub world in an update when the game is out? I mean, that look, it's a possibility, but it's so far in the future that we can't really, like, I can't say really. It'll depend. It's you know, the game might not, like, it might actually flop. Like, I don't think it will. Like, I reasonably think it'll do good, but I don't want to set my expectations too high, you know? I don't want to just magically think it's going to succeed for no reason, because that would be arrogant. And I've seen people do that as well, because I do try to, like, study indie devs carefully, and I've noticed a lot of the time, about half the time, they have a false confidence, and you kind of it takes a bit of study, but you can eventually start to learn the difference between fake and real confidence. And it's the fake if I had fake confidence, I would lie and say, yeah, we'll do that. But honestly, I don't know. I don't have enough information. But it's something we'll just see. We'll see how it goes with it. So yeah, if the game does really well and everyone loves it, then that might be something we do. If not, then that's fine. It's as long as what does get delivered is good. That's all I really care about. Do I think there'll be different skins and outfits? Look, as much as I'd love to do that, the model itself is... Actually, I was going to show you one more thing. Sorry, I totally forgot. I'll open up Blender. You haven't seen Gabi in a while, haven't you? Let's go have a visit and see what Gabi's up to today. And then I'll head off in a bit. But this character model was so meticulous that it's going to be kind of difficult to do skins. Because some of you might have been around when I was streaming the character, and it took a long time, but it was worth it because we've got hold on, it's not, give me a second. Blender's, give me one sec. Where's Blender? There we go. Where's my chat? Why are these windows... Hold on. Because I installed a window manager recently. Kind of like... I'm not a Linux user. I'm using Windows, so don't laugh. But I noticed Linux users all have these really cool like window managers. And I installed one a few months ago. And it's a little finicky. So if my windows start messing up, that's why. It's because I'm a filthy Windows scrub. I'm sorry. But anyway, so Gabi's model, to answer that question thoroughly, it's a very high quality model, but it's also it's not very flexible. Probably like to create, like, if you're thinking like Apex Legends tier skins where the entire costume is different, just being real with you, I'm probably not going to have time. Like, it's just to make it to the quality you need for this type of model is just not realistic. So I don't know, but if it just because the amount of time it costs, you got to keep that in mind. I have to be a lot more conservative now with where I'm putting my time and how much I'm spending on things, because I don't have the mega grant anymore. Like, that's gone. It's I got to be a lot more conservative. So if I can like try to get like consistent support with like streaming or the YouTube channel, if that keeps going and if long enough I could save up, maybe, but I have a lot to do. So I don't want to be too optimistic. My main focus is getting the stuff that's important done and just doing less, but doing it well rather than like extra stuff. But I mean, if it got to the point where people like really, really, really wanted it and were willing to like chip in and help like monetarily, then maybe I could like put time to that. But it's very time consuming and expensive to make skins. Like, if you look at the way this has been modeled and shaded, it might look low fidelity and simple, but as you guys if you were watching the streams earlier in the year, you'll know just how meticulous it is to create a character to this quality. And that's why I'm only, even for like, because some people have asked if I'm going to have Felix and Calder have models. And honestly, I want to see if I can get away with not giving them models and doing something a bit more clever with having them part of the story, but not having to give them models, because it's just very, very time consuming to make models. But for me, my focus is like, Gabi is the person you're playing as. She is kind of everywhere. Literally, she's on my shirt right now. She is everywhere. So she needs to be like perfect, but I obviously can't apply that standard everywhere to everything. I have to be selective. And now I took a gamble on Gabi, and I believed that if I put all the effort in her, it would pay off. And I think I wasn't wrong. I mean, you're looking at the gameplay for the main character. I think this was worth it, because I mean, look at this. I think it's a huge leap forward compared to the old one personally. And if you look at the YouTube channel right now, you'll notice that my cover image is different. If you look at the Steam page right now, you'll notice that all the key art was redone. And that's we'll get to that next, because that was really fun as well. But that was all not hand drawn. That was all done with this model, because that was my plan from the beginning, was to make the model in such a way that I could use it for key artwork and not just in game. I could use it for merch. I could use it, like, even here, I've got more merch on my table right now. Like these stickers, which are on the store right now, by the way, some of these were hand drawn, but this one was not hand drawn. That was just a screenshot of the model. And that saves a lot of time if I want to pump out more of those. So I gotta show you this. Before I show you the key artwork, I'll show you this, man. It's so cool. So in terms of the modeling department, because I haven't shown you this in a while. Oh man, there is a lot I gotta catch people up on, man. It's been too long. So this, I have a little timeline here of, is that visible? I don't know how visible that is. Let me check my Streamlabs. And I'll get my other document open. Where's Streamlabs? I just gotta check. Okay, I think my desktop should be visible, right? You guys can see that. So this is the I have a few variants of this pose. So I have a file here of this is just a timeline of different poses with the model, with different poses. And I've got a few I might use. This is the one I ended up using for the shirt. So there we go, right? And then I think even here, yeah, this is this is what I used for the thumbnail as well. So that was all. Some people might have thought that was a drawing, but that was also the model I did for the thumbnail for the last video. So it's really, really efficient now to make new key artwork and renders, which is important because hell, I could have spent like, 2 or 3 days meticulously drawing the shirt, or I could just take a screenshot and touch it up a bit, and boom. So that was the actual model with just the, if I turn the production lighting on, maybe it'll look a bit better. But that's it with the wireframe on and stuff, right? So you got all this, you got like the wireframe, and then if I turn it on with grayscale, now the illusion's gone. It's like, oh, now it looks ugly as hell, right? But then you screenshot it, you take it in Photoshop, you touch it up a bit, and boom, you get this. And I'm really, 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 I freaking love this. I love this picture so much. And this is like a key part of like sort of my master plan with the game. So I've got all this new key art, I've got new logos and everything. Because when you're on Steam and you're buying games, you're always going to see the cover. People keep saying that you don't judge a book by its cover, but I think that's completely wrong. You absolutely can. And if the cover looks bad, there's a rare exception where it isn't, but most of the time it is. So so I went all out on this key artwork. I got the model. I did some touching up in Photoshop just to kind of clean up the lighting a little, but that is her model. And what I think is cool, that I think players will appreciate, hopefully, is that they're seeing the Steam page, and what the thing is telling you is that this is who you're playing. Like, that's what this is, the cover image. It's like, that's the character you're playing as. But it literally is. Like, it isn't some figurative, like, this is a drawing of the character you're playing as, and then you go in game and it looks terrible. It's like, no, that is literally the character you're playing as. And then you see the trailer. I gotta do a new trailer soon. But you do, like, the new, you actually look at the gameplay screenshots, and it's like, oh my goodness, that literally is the exact, like, it looks the exact same as the drawing. And that's the kind of reaction I want, right? So hopefully, closer to the end of the journey, when I drive more people to the Steam page, they might pick up on that kind of thing. And if they do, it's going to be so cool, man. I think it's going to be freaking awesome. I know it might not be obvious straight away, but because it's about fulfilling expectations. That's kind of the game. If you have because I see this on Steam all the time, where it's people that follow the Chris Zukowski advice and they pay some random person to do the key artwork, but it doesn't look anything like the game. And you have an oversaturated market of games that all have these Fiverr high, these flashy like key art on Steam, but the actual game doesn't look anything like it. And that's part of the reason I wanted to do this art style from the beginning, because I would go back, when I started this game, I would go to like EB Games, like, because I was not like a digital person. I would go and buy physical games, and I would look at the store shelves, And I'd see all these games with these amazing, beautiful cover art, but the game would be some like pixel art RPG Maker thing, and it would be such a letdown. So what I wanted to do is like, this is what I've been like spending so long to kind of get, as well as everything else, is that kind of thing where you look at the box art and it's beautiful, and then the actual game looks exactly like the box art. That's, I don't know if I'm the only one that cares about that kind of thing, but I personally think it's really cool. And I think if I think it's cool, then maybe other people will also think it's cool. So yeah, I don't know, that's what I think anyway. But I don't know, tell me what you think of that. It's probably like, I don't know if there's bits I could do to improve it. I've tried to do a very retro logo as well. So I've tried to, I didn't want to do some boring, like, you know, just one color, like corporate logo. I wanted to do something a bit more 2000s looking. So I've got the different colors, I've got the outlines, I've got the glow. Just trying to get that kind of look with the new logo. I think it has a bit more personality than the old one anyway. So hopefully it'll, you know, it'll show up. You love it? Oh, that's awesome. Thanks so much. Rora says, nothing upsets me more than when I see dope key art and then click on the game and it's nothing like... Yeah, man. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. This guy gets it, man. You get it. See, that's... Because that happens all the time. And the reason it happens is because you get these people like... What's the dude? It's like How to Market an Indie Game giving all this advice. And he says like, no, don't make your own key art. That's stupid. Go hire someone else to do it. And then you get this phenomenon where every game has key art that is not representative of the end product at all. And you oversaturate the market with overproduced key art. And it isn't overproduced. That can be a good thing. It's bad when it is not making a sincere promise of like, here's what you're getting. Because it's not what you're getting. Because the dev didn't even make the key art. It was some random person. And that's... I know everyone, because I get people emailing me about him all the time where it's like, go listen to this dude's advice, but he probably would have told me to not do this and say, no, you can't do your own key art. But it's like, all right, well, I did my own and I think it looks okay. So, you know, you don't always have to like follow the standard template thing, I find. So I don't know if it's just me that like disagrees with that, but I notice that he gets pushed everywhere and I see his stuff all the time. And, you know, he's probably right about things, but, I mean, you don't always have to, like, do exactly what the experts tell you, I don't think. Make the logo chrome. Oh, I think I know what you mean. Okay, so this I did make I think I know what you mean with the gradient. I'll show you a cool little trick. I just gotta find, this is the Photoshop. Where's my layers? Oh, there we go. So... Real quick, because I did make a different version. You guys can maybe give me feedback on this now if you want. I did make an alternate version that had a gradient. I'll show you. Let me just replace this. If I go replace contents in Photoshop and pick the gradient version. So that's the alternate one I tried. But I couldn't... I kind of just went with the white one because it was safer. But this is like the leaning more into the 2000s aesthetic with the gradient. See, I don't know, you guys tell me what you think. If you like the just the white or with the with the gradients. The colors don't work. Yeah, it's a bit mixed, isn't it? Some people love it, some people don't. Why not mix the white and blue? Oh, maybe I could try that. Because yeah, what I've done is I've just picked hues from her skin, and the pink is just her hair shade. So I've just color picked from her thing, but I haven't used any blue. I don't know, maybe. It just depends on what part you would make blue. If I had to guess, it would be like maybe the outline of the red, maybe that. And then keep the text the same color, or I don't know. I might play around with it, but that's sort of what I ended up doing. Doesn't pop out of the background enough. Okay. With the gradient or with the white? Center as cyan and top and bottom white. Oh, like having the gradient itself be blue. Okay, maybe. I'll have to like, because I don't want to like start doing a 2-hour logo design session right now, but I'll write that down in my notes here. blue gradient for logo. Might give that a try later. But yeah, so that's some of the other stuff I've been cooking. I know this isn't level design stuff. I know I titled the stream level design, but I think I pretty comprehensively went through all the level stuff. But here's just other stuff I've been working on as well. I've been cooking, okay. I've been a bit busy. Nice style, but the color, okay, yeah. So it seems just like the gradient as a concept people like. It's just the color choice. All right. Well, I'll play around with it a bit more maybe, and we'll if I get time to work on it more, I might play around. But yeah, let me just... Sorry, I'm seeing if I missed any... I love the CRT feeling. Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, I did a cool little trick here where I've got scan lines on the background. And I didn't really... I don't know, I just thought it would look cool. And I'm like, hey, what if I made, like, scan lines? I don't know. You guys tell me what you reckon. Because I think without it... yeah, so if I turn them off, it's just like a pattern I've applied. I'll turn off the logo as well. I don't know. I thought it would have this more kind of nostalgic look with the scan lines. So it's literally just a pattern of like a black and a white line that I've just overlaid on top. So it isn't like a proper CRT filter, but it's like, it gives you the impression of it, right? Oh, thanks guys. That's awesome. Thanks so much. That's so cool. Thanks so much. Great and subtle. Thank you. Man, what a great compliment. Great and subtle. That's awesome. Maybe I can have two gradient, blue for her skin and the other, and for project and her skin to be, hold on, let me read that again. Two gradient, blue to her skin for project, and then her skin to blue. Oh, I see. Yeah, maybe. I'll have to play around with it, but so the general consensus seems to be that the gradient is cool if it uses more cool colors. So, alrighty. Can the logo have a... can it have a tail or a cat ear? I tried doing a cat ear. I don't have it... because I was drawing it physically, so I don't have my sketchbook here right now. But I tried to do like a abstract mark cat ear logo, but I couldn't get it like to look... I could tell there was something wrong with it, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Logo design is actually kind of hard, as it would turn out, and I might revisit it later. But just for time, I had to like get something out on the Steam page for the video, so I didn't have time to like perfect the abstract mark. It was I don't know if I could quickly draw it, but it was sort of like this. It was like a shape of her ear inside a square type thing, but I was doing it kind of freehand, and there's a lot of rules to good logo design that I don't know, and I could see the limit of my knowledge. I could feel I was reaching the limit of my knowledge, and I'm like, okay, if I want to do this right, I have to do a lot more research on the principles of logo design and negative space and all this stuff. And I'm like, maybe if I get time later, but like it was like good, but it wasn't great. That's kind of where I got it to with this sort of word mark thing. So I don't know, maybe I'll play around with it more, but I wasn't fully confident in it. So I just did the text for now, but maybe maybe later we'll, what version of Unreal? I'm using Unreal 4.27. Don't laugh. I'm not upgrading to 5. I have a reason. I don't want to deal with Unreal breaking all the time, so I'm not doing 5. But 4 is doing just fine for me. I'm enjoying Unreal 4. And it has lower system specs, so it'll run better. And I think that's probably more important to the gamers, in my opinion. Would I consider moving to Godot? Not for this game. I'm too far in to where switching engines is like a good idea. But and I also think, like, because I haven't used a lot of open source stuff except like Trench Broom, which is like really good, but I get the feeling that tools like Trench Broom are the exception, not the rule, because there is a lot of bad open source stuff. Not saying it's all bad, but I'm just saying that like because Unreal is a commercial engine, they do have a greater incentive to deliver a higher quality product. Not always, but generally, or at least they'll do it faster. So I reckon Godot does sound interesting to me insofar as I think by the time this is over and I've I've accomplished my quest, and I'm in my Thanos stage where I'm just sitting down and making stew. When I get to that stage, and if I have the funds to do a sequel, then I might consider. But even then, because I have all these infrastructure already made in Unreal, it might not be worth it. Because usually I find using the tools you know is better than what you don't know. And there are times that isn't true, but most of the time you want to stick to what you know, I find, just from my own experience. And I think it would have to be, for me to want to do Godot, I would think by that point, I'd imagine Godot would have advanced a lot. And if it's advanced to the point where it is superior in the ways I need it to be than Unreal for my purposes, then I might consider it. Not that I will do it, but I might consider it if the advantages outweigh my familiarity with Unreal. But it's a hard thing to know. For me personally, I'm not really too like obsessed with being loyal to a tool, or the console war, like that. How people have like sort of a console war mentality to the engines, where it's like Unreal is better, Unity's better. Like I like do that as a joke, but I don't actually care that much. I kind of care about what tool am I comfortable with the most? What tool is going to stay out of my way and let me do what I want? And at the moment, it's Unreal and Trench Broom. If Godot ends up becoming so easy for me to use that it's like worth dropping Unreal and relearning an engine, then that might be worth considering. But it's hard to say now whether that'll happen. It's just too far in the future. But I haven't used it though, so that I don't really have any idea what to expect. It might already be there now, but I just don't think for me right now it's worth the time to switch. Hold on, I've just got a piece of fingernail sticking out here that's annoying me. But yeah, like, because I know I make fun of Unity people, but I don't really care. Like, I used to use Unity for a time, and it was fine for my purposes. I know everyone kind of had a fit when the whole licensing thing happened. And yeah, that's... like, what are you going to do, right? Like, that's like, we don't own the engine, so we don't really get, like, unless we want to make our own engine from scratch, that's the only way you can really avoid those problems, right? But with I like, as much as I might prefer Unreal, but it doesn't mean that Unity's terrible or that Godot's terrible. Like, I don't really care. It's like whatever you like is the right choice, I find. As Burren says, imagine using a pre-existing engine instead of building your own. I know, right? Yeah. And look, there are people that will do it. Like, what's his name? Jonathan Blow. Isn't he's doing like his own scripting language, isn't he? And I know a lot of people hate him for that. But honestly, man, if that's what he wants to do, I'd say let him do it. Like, let the man cook if that's what he wants to do. Because like, most of us aren't Jonathan Blow, and we don't know what he's thinking. If he's decided that I'm better off doing my own engine and my own coding language, then he's probably not, like, no one makes a choice like that without seriously thinking about it. And if he seriously thought of it and he was like, that's the way I want to do it, then I say, hey man, do it your way. You just go for it. If it ends up working, great. If it doesn't, then at least that's the sort of attitude I have about it. But yeah, it's definitely not for the faint of heart though. I agree, Azure. That's why I wouldn't do it personally. Because I'm not Jonathan Blow. I'm just some guy, right? So I wouldn't do it. But if someone is confident they can, I'm not going to tell them what to do. Like, what the hell do I know about what other people are good at, right? So if people want to do Unity, if they want to do Godot, I don't care. Like, do whatever you want. So yeah, because we used to get that when I was doing like more Unreal stuff earlier in the year. We'd get people having fights in the comments about what engine was better, and like, it's kind of the wrong argument. There isn't a better or worse. Like, there's no such thing as the best game engine. It's just whatever you like. It's like saying, what are the best jeans, or what's the best t-shirt? Now, obviously that's a bad example, because the answer to that is this, obviously. So that's a bit of a bad example, but you know what I'm saying? It's like what's the best what's the best sandwich? Like, who cares? What's your favorite sandwich? That's the right question. Thanks so much, by the way. Love Tofu for subscribing with Prime. Dude, I just gotta say, like, thanks so much for all of the donations and support today. I appreciate it so much. I was kind of not sure whether I wanted to start streaming again, because it's really, really hard to, like, run a live stream. So I really appreciate the support. If people are this supportive, I might consider doing this as a regular thing again. And that's sort of the last thing on my agenda today I wanted to kind of go through. So with the content and everything, to talk about not the game dev, but the journey for a second, with the game dev journey, right? So that last devlog, man, that I put out, that took so long. I never want to make a video like that ever again. Hopefully, if I keep doing things this way with Trench Broom, hold on, let me full screen for a second so you guys can see me, because we're done looking at the desktop for today. There's more stuff I could show, but we'd be here for hours, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. But so that last devlog, I don't know how many of you have watched it. It's pretty big. Making the devlog was almost as hard as living the devlog of what happened. So I just want to say I appreciate everyone for coming back, checking in, seeing what's going on. I really do appreciate that. It was really cool, and there's been a lot of support on it. And it's just, you know, because with the solo dev route, I understand that a lot of people are very skeptical of my attitude with solo development, and that's fine. I don't expect people to get it. But you know, it is hard. I won't lie. Solo development is really mentally demanding. It can be torture. For a lot of people, it is torture. But for me, like, the fact that you guys are so encouraging and that are here for me to, like, watch me figure this out, that makes it way easier. You know, as much as I might prefer working alone and not involving people, it's not that I don't think people suck. Like, people for some reason think that's the conclusion, but it's not the conclusion. It's not like, that's not that's not what I didn't say it. It's more that it's just complicated, right? But with how supportive you've all been, it's definitely made the mental burden a lot easier. And I can't put into words just how much that means. Like, it's a huge deal. So I really do appreciate it. If I didn't have you guys, like, interested and you didn't care, like, it would be torture. It would be so hard. It'd be really hard. Because I think the thing that people get stuck on is, like, the motivation and, like, the will to go on. If I had to guess, because there seems to be this de facto opinion where everyone thinks that one person can't do everything. And it's like, well, if they're demotivated and demoralized and tired, then yeah, they probably won't be able to do everything. And yeah, I'm not arguing that at all. It is difficult. That's why I'm, like, super, super, super grateful that any of you care. Because if I didn't have you guys, that would have been me. I would have been demoralized. I would have quit. And I would have proven the status quo right, that solo devs can't do anything. And that would be the story. But because you guys are so interested, like, it keeps... That's what makes me want to keep trying with this, so I can show you, like, you know, this is what's coming next type stuff, and this is, like, we're gonna make it through, right? So I do really appreciate that. So with that in mind, though, as you probably saw, like, that, because that devlog took so long, I had to go radio silent for a while, and I am sorry. Like, I'm sorry that I had to be so quiet. I know it was probably a bit annoying, and you're probably thinking that I've died. I didn't. I was just kind of busy, and I had to just be alone for a bit. So what I've been trying to do is figure out a way to not go 6 months with leaving you in the dark. Because trust me, that whole time I was stressing out so much of, oh my goodness, I have to, like, get this video done right now so that, you know, people know what's going on. But you can't rush a video like that. That's the thing. If I started working on that video a few months ago, and if I'd released it then, it would have not landed. It would have been horrible, because the story hadn't finished, and I didn't want to leave people off on the "it's so over" part, because that's where it was up until a few months ago. So I had to just take my time with it. But with that in mind, as fun as it is to do these big videos, I'm trying to find the balance so I'm not leaving you guys for, like, starving for months at a time. But at the same time, you know, managing the community and managing development, it's a very tricky balance. So this stream is a bit of an experiment where instead of like what I was doing earlier in the year where I was streaming like development every day and I was like doing work, I'm gonna give this sort of thing a go, where I'm, instead of like me just sitting and working, I'm just gonna be doing like a show off of like, here's what I'm cooking today. And they're not gonna be like probably as spectacular as the devlogs. They're not gonna be like, I made like Minecraft in a day type stuff. It's not gonna be like that. So it's probably not gonna be as sensational and cool. But if that's like, if you guys want to like know more about what I'm working on, I might consider making this a regular thing, even if they're not huge splashes, even if it's just the mundane day-to-day stuff. But you guys, I don't know, you guys let me know if you want, if that sounds cool and if you would support that. Because if so, I can make this a regular thing. We can keep doing it. If not, if people just want me to shut up, then I'll do that. That's fine as well. But yeah, Poison says those type videos annoy. Yeah, man, they do as well. And I mean, yeah, that's the thing with game dev, right? Is that it's not always like cool. It's a lot of it is just boring. But that's it. Like that's the reality, right? This is for the hardcore fans. Will be more receptive. All right. Well, yeah. If you guys are interested in it, we'll keep doing it. Would I consider adding chat replay in video? I don't know what chat replay is. Does that mean like having it on the screen? Is that what you mean? Like where the chat is actually on my overlay? Because unfortunately, if that's what you mean, I actually am not allowed to do that because of Twitch. There's a certain, like, I think it was last year they changed their guidelines so that you could multi-stream, which is what I'm doing currently. So I've got Twitch and YouTube here now, but if you're streaming on Twitch, you can't show chats from other platforms because it's against the terms of service. So I can't have the chat on the screen. But I think if people are watching in full screen, they're probably watching in full screen because they don't want to read the chat anyway, that's what I think. Because in YouTube and Twitch, you have the theater mode and you can have the chat on the side. So I think I'm going to leave it like that, and I kind of don't have a choice either. I think TTS, is that the thing where you read, like the messages read from the speaker? I don't know, like I don't watch streamers that much, so I don't know the terminology, but if it means text to speech, I mean, maybe. If it brings in, hey, if people would be willing to leave donations and it does a TTS, then maybe if people would pay for that, we could do that. Is text to speech? Okay, cool, right. See, look, guys, I'm just cooking all the time, okay? I'm not watching streamers, so I don't know that. Don't laugh at me for not knowing all the cool hip poggers vocabulary, okay? Okay, so it's text to speech. All right. Just whatever. If I do that though, don't spam it with slurs, please. Please don't do that. I know it sounds funny, but I gotta run a business, okay? We gotta make it profitable. Otherwise, we're gonna get banned. We're gonna get shadow banned from YouTube, and it's all gonna be over. So don't spam slurs if we decide to do that. Okay, I'll have to work out how to do filters or something. Oh, hey, Len's in here. Hey, I recognize him. What's up? That's awesome. Glad you're here, man. We in Twitch and YouTube now. That's right. No, we're chill. We won't do it. I pinky promise. Well, hey, we have the pinky promise. We've got the pinky promise, guys. If we got the pinky promise, then we'll do. Then yeah, of course. Do I have a Discord? I do have a Discord. We have the Project Feline server. I think there's if you type in this link, it should take you to it. Keep in mind, I'm not very active there. So if you're gonna use it to like try and talk to me, don't take it personally, but I just don't spend a lot of time on Discord. So I have it because, you know, people say they want a Discord, so I have the Discord, but I don't really check it as often as I should. But if you guys want to, you guys can all chat. If you type in this link, it should take you to the invite, I think. Oh, if you had Trench Broom, oh dude, that'd be a huge help, man. Thank you. So yeah, if you do have any cool, if you do want to like, because I know that with my last video, everyone was really annoyed that I want to just kind of stay siloed and be solo. That doesn't mean though that I am going to ignore people. That's not what that means. So if you do have resources that are like related to this stuff that you think would be cool to check out, I will definitely try to look at them. Anything, if anyone knows techniques on this stuff and like loves Quake mapping and has cool things I can look at for research, that'd be a huge help. That'd be awesome. Because yeah, I'm really this stuff is so freaking cool, man. Like this trench broom stuff, and I want to learn as much as I can about it because it's oh man, it's just cool. Like I don't know how to word it, man. It's just freaking awesome. I don't know why everyone doesn't design levels like this. I mean, in the 90s, I guess that's what they were doing, but now we have the static mesh tile Unreal Marketplace. No, you can't. No, I want to do the old school way. That's what I want. So there's a Quake mapping Discord. All right, maybe I'll have to look at it then. Put the TTS behind a donation cap. Yeah, that'll be a good idea. Yeah. Look at the game Lorne's Lure. I might know of that one. Is that the one with the pickaxes? Sorry, don't laugh, okay? I know that it sounds like I'm confusing it for Minecraft, but it has like the axes, right? I think I saw it on Twitter once. Let me search it up. Yeah, I think this is the one I was... Lorne's Lore. I think that's what I was... Yeah, it's got the guy climbing. I've got the Steam page up. Yeah. Wait, so did they use these techniques too? Because if so, they did a really good job. This looks really cool. Let me just check your message again. Is that what you said? Lawns. Oh, it's not. Okay. Well, it might not be a Quake game, but it looks like, for those that are how do I get my desktop back? This Lorne's Lore. Sorry, excuse me. I'll get a screenshot. So this is one of the... See, this looks like it was made in that kind of tool, doesn't it? This looks BSP to me. So it could... Maybe they use these techniques as well. And like, how many people made Lorne's Lore? Rubeki Games. I don't know how many people are involved in that, but it doesn't look like a huge team. So... I mean, to me, I don't know, you look at that and you tell me what you think. Does that look like Hammer or Trench Broom? To me, it kind of does. It definitely doesn't look like Blender, that's for sure. So, I mean, hell, if that's what you can achieve, that looks pretty cool, if you ask me, man. Looks pretty awesome. So, yeah, anything you guys got, if you want to post it in the Feline Discord, just like of cool Trench Broom stuff I can look at, that'd be a huge help. I'd appreciate it. There's... Oh man, I'm getting... Now everyone's linking stuff. What's this? What is it? UDSK. That's giving me a children's hospital. I don't know if that's what you meant. I don't know if that's the thing you meant. UDSK. Yeah, it's a University Children's Hospital in like Russia or something. I don't think that's what you were referring to. Dusk. Okay. Okay. Dusk. Dusk game, I'm assuming. Excuse me. I see. Oh yeah, this looks very... Oh, sorry, my throat is just really sore. Yeah. Oh man, this looks really cool too. Yeah, I'll check all these out. These look awesome. Thanks so much. UESK. Bro, check out this children's hospital. This will give you inspiration. Yeah, that was probably the funniest mistype I've ever seen. It's awesome. Could be low poly in Blender. I mean, it could be, but Blender is like... I don't know if it's just me, but I find Blender really finicky and like particular. You have to like know all the topology rules and all the workflow, and it isn't as snappy either. It does have snapping, but it isn't as rigid as Trench Broom. And I find the Trench Broom is a more primitive tool, and primitive tools, I find that they just... You can work faster, but you can't do as much. But that's kind of the trade-off that you accept by using the primitive tool. Yeah, just post it in like... We don't really have like... I don't have like a lot of different chat. Just Feline Discussion will do it, because I guess it's relevant to Feline, you know. This is game research, so it'll just post it there. It should be fine. But yeah, but thanks so much though for sending those. Where do I drop? Yeah, so if you guys have like cool inspiration for like levels or something, I'll post the link again to the Discord. Hey, well, what do you know? We actually found a good use for the Discord finally. There we go. So if you want to just drop in feline, I think there's only one chat really for just chat, and that's feline discussion. And then it's the rest of them are just for like fan art or speedrunning or bug reports. I think that's the only other ones we've got. And then we've got the members chat. That's kind of the only one I check often. So that one is the members chat is a bit less structured. It's just kind of like whatever. And I try to pay more attention to that one because that's the one people pay for. Because yeah, the rest of it's pretty big. There's a lot of people, so I don't always have time to read it. But I'll make sure after stream to go check it. Grid snapping in Blender is holding control. All right, well I didn't know about that keybind, but Blender does let you not. It lets you go off grid. That's kind of what I mean. Where if you are not careful, you can release the grid snap without realizing, and you can go off grid and it won't punish you and it won't even tell you. It'll just kind of let you do it. Whereas these older tools like Trench Room, like it'll log errors. If you do anything that's like not perfectly aligned and organized, it goes, hold up, and it stops you and goes, nope, you didn't. It's basically what, to bring that to my video, it's like working in it's like having Master Joshu next to you all the time, saying you have to wash your bowl all the time while you're trying to do anything in Trench Broom, because it literally doesn't let you get it wrong. You have to do it right, and that's what I love about it. It's like having a bowling lane with guardrails, which might sound like a skill issue, but there's a beauty to it that I really like. Owen says Blender isn't meant for prototyping. Yeah, that's sort of the vibe I get too, because I've seen people try to use Blender for level design, like for this, especially for a game like this, like Feline, where it's very fast, where you want to have like Sonic type levels. I can't imagine using Blender for it because the scale is so big and the software is too flexible. It lets you do too many things, and there's so much decision fatigue. And it's just a bit too much. I've seen people try to do it, but then you have to know like UVing, and you have to UV all the models to use the textures. Whereas with Trench Broom, it does all that for you. You don't even have to think about it. You just add the texture and it automatically UVs it. You don't have to have the cylindrical unwrap window open and like mess around with it. It's super fast and iterative. The only disadvantage is if you want to do curves or anything that's more advanced than a cube, it gets a bit harder. But I'm okay with that because some of you that might know this stuff more than I do, like with the Quake mapping, you'll know that doing curves is like tricky. you have to go about it in a very roundabout way to get cylinders and curves. So it was actually quite hard for real quick. I'll just show the desktop again. It was really hard for this level, especially because the first area is a big cylinder, and that's like an advanced, I think they call that an advanced technique to make a cylinder in Trench Broom. So that's where I began. I began with like advanced tutorial 3, making cylinders, and you have to do this complete round, like but once you know how to do it, it's not that hard, but it's just very unconventional. But at the same time, I actually really do appreciate it because it forces you to be simple. And it says, hey, level designer, do you need this to be a cylinder? Do you really need a cylinder? That's kind of what, by making it hard, it forces you to come up with simpler solutions, which over the long term is less decision fatigue and it's better. You get better quality and more timeless appeal because you're not going to be distracted by these new hip high poly stuff. You're not going to be worried about that. And so you have things like this where here it's like, I want the cylinder because I want Gabi to have a room where she can just run continuously on walls, because this is like the first kind of area, and I just want to give you a little a safe environment where you can run just around like that's. But for little areas later, like this area doesn't need curves, so I made it all boxes. This corridor doesn't, like, it's a sharp corner, and that works. It doesn't have to be a perfectly smooth corner because no one cares really. Like, it doesn't have to be that meticulous. This serves it fine, and it serves it's on purpose. And what I mean by that, it doesn't just mean deliberate. It's like it is on purpose, if you know what I mean. I know that's a common phrase everyone uses, but it by contrast, having it a perfectly high poly curve is off purpose, if you know what I mean, because it doesn't serve any purpose to have it higher fidelity than that. That's what I'm kind of saying. That's what I'm trying to say there. So that's why I love this. It's simple. It forces you to be extremely deliberate so that anything you do put in is on purpose and not off purpose. And I think my game theory, this is going to sound crazy, but my game theory is that the people that made Quake and Doom, even Titan, because this is how Titanfall was built, wasn't it? They used a hammer to build their maps, and Titanfall is freaking awesome. And I think the key thing in common is that they all use these very like timeless old style tools that reward good design and timelessness, and they disincentivize just kit bashing and just messing around. Like they disincentivize doing things off purpose, which is why Titanfall holds up so well, which is why Doom and Quake hold up so well. I know that graphically they look they aren't RTX whatever, but people still play those games, and they have a timeless quality to them. And I have to think that it has something to do with all this, with how they build it. It's that intention, right? So I know that sounds very artsy and weird, but we'll have to save that for another devlog at some point, because it's so freaking fascinating, and I think it's really cool, and I kind of wish more people would talk about that sort of thing. But yeah, Titanfall Nexus says Titanfall 2 does look better than half of the new UE5 games. See, I agree. I know that people will think I'm crazy when I say this, but I actually think it does. Like Titanfall 2, most of the new Unreal 5 games, I just don't find that appealing. They all look the same. But Titanfall 2 was made with like modified Source Engine, and I think it holds up, like, not even visually, because visually isn't all there is, but everything about it, the visuals, the gameplay, the story, everything holds up. Except the netcode, as it would seem, because they got hacked, didn't they, or something? I haven't played it in a while, but like the servers were taken offline for a long time. That was like the only thing where they went. That was the only exception, but everything else holds up great, you know. But I mean, it's netcode. I don't like that. That's hard. I don't blame them for. That's really hard. But yeah. Are there? Oh, but thanks so much, Imp, for becoming a supporter. So I'm just reading through the donations and stuff. Thanks so much. Classic, yeah, man. But yeah, so basically what I'm doing, because I know some people said Source Engine, I should do Source Engine, and I'm kind of trying to do the next best thing. I'm trying to do like the Source Engine method without switching to Source Engine, because I'm an Unreal guy. I don't know Source Engine, so yeah. The servers are fine now? Okay. Oh, that's good news. Oh, but no one plays on them? Oh, that's a shame. Oh well. That's a shame. But you know what I mean, right? Like Titanfall, that will in another. How old is that game even? I don't even know. It's like 8 years old, I think. I want to say 8. In 15 more years, it's still gonna go hard. Like it's still gonna be. Everyone's still gonna look back on Titanfall 2 and go like, man, that was such a great game. And that's like, I don't know. I really admire people that want to make that level. That's kind of, I think, is so freaking cool, and not just like, oh, I made whatever, some slop, like I made a climbing game or something, like where it's just one novel play mechanic and it's people forget about it in like 2 days type stuff. It's a kind of a different game with making games like that and trying to make like something on that level, but it's really, I don't know. I think there's something about the grid and the level design and everything, that all kind of makes it timeless. I'm trying to work out how to explain it better. So maybe by the time I get to the devlog, I'll know how to word it. But that's my game theory on why like some of these older games are more fun than the new stuff. That's just my opinion anyway. But let me just check the time. Okay, it's getting to be like, for me, a bit later into the morning, so I'm gonna get a move on because I gotta start getting some work done. But NetBuy says you're restarting the topic of Quake old level design. Well, hey man, this topic shouldn't have died, I don't think, because this is actually so cool. I don't know why this died off, but we can bring it back, guys. Okay, we're gonna make level design great again. It's gonna be great. Okay, it's gonna be awesome, and I'm really looking forward to it. But this stuff I'm showing you is, we got a few devlogs we got to get through first, and that's gonna take some time. So I got to start doing the devlog about Gabi. I got to do the devlog on the mission system, and then I think I can do the devlog on the level design. So it's gonna be probably not until like early next year I'll actually get to show this in the devlog. But for those that are like want to know what's happening now, this is sort of where it's at. So for those that came to tune in, thank you so much. You didn't have to come here. I know it was a very impromptu stream, but what we'll do, because if we want to make this regular and you enjoy seeing these little peaks, let me know, and we'll see if we can like maybe pick a better schedule. I don't know if this was, how many people are even here? I actually didn't even check the stats. I know the YouTubers like me are supposed to be constantly looking at the analytics, but I haven't actually checked them. How many people? 195. Whoa. Okay, thanks so much, guys. Wow, I didn't realize so many people were here. Thanks so much. Well, hey man, if you enjoyed it, maybe we'll do it just the same time next week, if that works for everybody. We'll do it at, for me, it was 8 a.m. I don't know what it would be for you guys, but we'll work it out. So make sure you're following, you're subscribed, you're following me on Twitter, and join the Discord. I'm going to be posting announcements there if we want to make this a thing. I'll try to look into the TTS thing. And yeah, and look, I wasn't sure if I'd go back to streaming, but I mean, if you guys are down for it, and if you want to help support me do it, then I'd like nothing better, because I have missed you guys a lot, honestly. But you know, it's just hard, right? But I reckon if we do this style where it's more of a presentation, maybe it'll maybe, I don't know, might work out. We'll see. But thanks so much for coming, guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate so much the support on the video, and I'd appreciate your support so much on the merch if you can afford to do that. I've got a link down in the description for the store if you want to get your... We don't have just shirts. This is kind of one of the more expensive things with the shirts, but we have cheaper things if you want to be a cheapskate like me. We got the stickers on the store. These are all like of Gabi. One of these is the 3D model, but I won't tell you which one. That'll be for you to find out. And then we got this other cool one as well, if you want to check those out. So I've got those linked in the description if you want to support the work I do. And if you can't afford to do that, that's fine. As long as you're here and you're just your spiritual energy is also just appreciated so much. So that's gonna be all I think I'll show for today. Thanks so much for being here, guys. I will maybe see you next week for another just little game dev chat. So yeah, thanks so much, guys. I'll see you next time.